Mailing units in Space Station 14 are simply a device like the disposal network that allows you to send items specifically from one place to any place on the mail network. This is usually station dependent, but the stations that have this pretty much always allow you to mail things between the specific departments, at least the specific major departments. If I want to send a piece of paper from cargo directly to the bridge, you just put it in the mailing unit, click bridge, and click send. And once the object gets to its destination, it just appears right on the mailing unit. Then you can then send this onwards elsewhere if you want, take it, the item, so name it. This is really good for cargo, especially because you can just mail materials wherever you want to go. It's like, oh, well, I want to send something to science. I can send steel to science. Security needs steel. Let me just send it straight to security. That takes away the need for somebody having to go physically deliver it. So unless the tubes get sabotaged, it'll get to where it's going and be inside a department so people can't tamper with it as easily, like as if you're dragging in a box where that's easier to tamper. Of course, everything varies in this game, but the speed is what really matters here, and it's just such an underutilized part of the game. To give a basic understanding of how mailing units actually work, we're going to first actually make one by hand. You can make the electronics by default round start at any auto lathe. You need mailing unit electronics and a piece of steel and 3 pieces of plastic. I think this is where a lot of confusion comes from, is because actually building a mailing unit is very bizarre. You don't use a machine frame. You actually instead make a disposal unit, but you don't finish a disposal unit. So you do the 1 piece of steel to get the frame going. Then you have to add your 2 low voltage cables, and then your 2 plastic. And now this is where you actually insert the mailing unit electronics. There's no instructions anywhere other than just knowing this is how it works in order to do it. So I think this is why you don't see mailing units get repaired often, or just even, you can make your own mailing units if you want anyway, make your own routes. Then you just finish it with the screwdriver and add a piece of steel. And we are done. We now have a mailing unit. The difference between a mailing unit and a disposal unit is mailing units will send items on a network and can only send items. Like, you can't flush yourself. So it makes it more secure specifically for mail or items, not flushing yourself into departments and breaking in. So there is that level of safety. And of course, just like any disposal network, you'd have to build the trunk and the pipes. If you want to make a really, really simple mailing network, you could just do something literally this simple, and it would send one item from point A to point B with no interruption. However, it's not really a mailing unit if you just are sending items an inch or two, because, I mean, it's just right here. One thing you need to do with mailing units is you need to designate their locations or designate their tag. So if you want one location to be a number and another location to be a number, that's great. And that way the most basic setup possible. Mailing unit 1 can only go to mailing unit 2, vice versa. So if I just open up mailing unit 1, the only destination to send it to is, well, 2. And this is still an advantage over doing just disposal bins because people can't jump into this. So you can use this as a way to transport only items. And then if I wanted to send from 2 to 1, since this is a one-way system, it will work no problem at all. It just goes back and forth. More complicated systems use something called a disposal router. A disposal router will also have a way of designating a tag. Instead, you don't need a multi-tool for this. You just left-click it. So let's say I want to have an item go to point 2, and I could just make this the new point 2. So point 2 will be right here. First, you need a multi-tool to make this point 2. Then we want items to keep going through this network and go to point 2. So we need to tag this router, which you could just left-click it and make it 2. So this is a very basic example of a mailing unit loop. And it's through the introduction of disposal routers. You could just craft these in the G menu. Disposal routers, when you left click them, will have a tag. This tag correlates to the tag you want on your mailing unit. So if you want this location to be tag 2, you're going to want to make a router with the offshoot side going into the same mailing unit with the same designation. So this router is tag 2 and this mailing unit is tag 2. This one is 3 and this one is 1. So if I want to send an object from 1 to 3, it will go through this network. So this is 1 and I want to send it to 3. I'll click send. It will know to go through this network, ignore this one because this is 2, keep going until it hits 3. So now it's sent to 3. This is a very basic mailing unit, and this knowledge should help you know how to actually repair a mailing unit. Because I've seen a ton of people to watch one little router get sabotaged, and they just have no idea how to actually fix the problem. And I think this is another reason why it's not used, because A, even knowing how to construct a mailing unit's fucking confusing. It's just honestly completely hidden. There's no real instruction steps. It doesn't use machine frames, so it doesn't follow the logic of the game. And 2, there's no explanation that you can even like left click these routers. Plus it even says you can configure it, but I don't think many people are just making random routers and left clicking them. And the fact that you need a multi-tool for the mailing unit, because there's no like right click option here. So I think that does confuse people. And also, by the way, if I want to go from 3 to 2, it will work no problem. So 3 to 2, it'll send, go through the pipe, it'll say, hey, we're not going to 1, we're going to 2. So it pops out right here. And that is a basic explanation of how to make a mailing unit loop and how to fix it. In an effort to try to make this make more sense, this is Box Station, and I'm going to be just giving a very rough rundown of how this all works. So you can already see that the mailing units and the disposal units have a separate track. So when you're trying to fix it, or like you're trying to build this, keep that in mind. You want to try to keep them separate because, well, they're separate pipes. This is designated as the bridge, and if in case the 1, 2, 3 example didn't make sense, this router here is designated as the bridge. So if an item is coming up through this whole network and it's going to the bridge, it'll hit here and say, hey, this is the bridge mailing unit, so it'll send it here. If it's not going to the bridge, it'll keep going. And since you had to pick a destination to send it, it'll keep going somewhere. So say you sent to security, it'll keep going here. Well, what's this designated as? Well, this is a router that has the security tag. So if it's going to security, it won't keep going through the loop. It'll instead keep going up until it finds that mailing unit, which is here. This is the one designated security. And not to confuse things further, it is actually just really that simple. It's just mail goes in a loop and shoots off the offset wherever the router says to offshoot that mail to. This should allow you to build your own mailing system entirely by hand and freeform, or fix any currently existing mailing system if it gets broken, sabotage, whatever. Thank you for watching.